Well, that was a strange one. The Guardians of Justice is an assault on the senses type of superhero Netflix series that may cause you to twitch and maybe also smile. Either way, it's certainly bizarre. After keeping the Earth at peace for 40 years, alien superhero Marvelous Man leaves a mission up to both his bitter, violent lieutenant Nighthawk and idealistic The Speed to stop nuclear war. Okay, so first thing to know is that this is from Bootleg Universe, meaning that almost everything we see is a blatant ripoff of other IPs, with just enough change to keep them out of the court system. I mean, think of this as a budget DC Comics Justice League, but with a whole lot more blood and guts and social commentary. The characters could be compared with Superman, Batman, maybe Wonder Woman, The Flash, Aquaman, Robin, and I'm probably many more. And while this is a live action series, they employ so many different styles of animation within the show to enhance the storytelling and also make it way more frenetic of an experience. Now, some of the styles that we see are anime, there's claymation, 8-bit video game style, some flat 2D cartoons, and even some 3D CGI. I mean, it really is a barrage of imagery that just comes at us. The premise of the show is that a superhero gives up as the leader of the Guardians of Justice, which then not only leaves a power vacuum within the Guardians, but also within the world, causing a villainous organization to want to rule Earth, and then nations come to the brink of nuclear war. There's also a mystery that takes place throughout the episodes, and it became more engaging as the series went along. Now, I found myself becoming invested in the hunt to figure out what actually happened to some of the key characters. Most of this plays out like a video game series, but one that would feel right at home if it were paired with the Power Rangers. I mean, the fighting and moves the characters do they're choreographed well, but they have this huge air of fakeness to them also. I love that the actors also know exactly what type of show this is, and they play their characters with the maximum amount of cheese, but they still perform in ways that make it highly enjoyable. The social commentary is pretty overt in what they're addressing. I mean, for example, in an overarching storyline, the show addresses global powers and then the never-ending pursuit for superiority. Some of the commentaries are pretty on the nose and pointed. Like there is a group of radicals called Anubis who are trying to create this sort of one-world power, but their costumes just happen to be white sheets with pointy heads. And then we got the name of the President of the United States, who's President Newcomb. I mean, he's full of puffed up machismo. Now, I found it funny, but in a very dark way. And because of the bizarre nature of the presentation, I think this may be a little hard to get into for some. The way it comes across is like if you gave a 13-year-old boy with ADHD a handful of crack and then some red vines, then filled him up with Mountain Dew, shook him up, and then asked him to tell you a story of his day. I mean, what you'd get is insane, mostly unbelievable, but probably very entertaining or at least creative. And I gotta hand it to the show for its creativity and its risk-taking. By putting so many different storytelling and visual styles within one show, I mean, heck, even within one episode, the show runs the risk of turning everyone off because it can't commit to a bit. This is a really quick binge with only 7 episodes that are between 21 and 36 minutes long. And they fly by, but there are points that are a little repetitive, and some portions just feel more exploitative than essential to the narrative. In these times, the scenes are really showcasing imagery that's mainly there for shock value or just some violent craziness, as well as then just using the opportunity to showcase yet one more superhero that they copied from DC. Now, luckily, most of the time, though, these sequences are building the narrative and they're progressing the story forward. I think probably the biggest frustration that I have with this series so far is the final episode. There's a ton of buildup, a wicked climax, and then a recap exposition dump before going to the credits and leaving us on a cliffhanger. Now, I like the twist that the story pulls, and even when I think I figured out some of it, there are still other portions that I didn't see coming, so the surprises are very welcomed. Overall, The Guardians of Justice is a barrage of crazy imagery that somehow works together to build an intriguing story. The characters are certainly comic in nature, which I think is very fitting for a superhero story. The graphics are executed really well, with some of them looking atrocious and dated, which is exactly the desired effect. I loved the social commentary, and I appreciate how pointed some of the discussions got. While I really enjoyed the extremely varied animation and presentation styles, I know that it is not something that will be appealing to everybody, and in some cases may even be off-putting. I think if you're in the mood for something completely different, give this one a watch, but know going in that it's going to assault your eyes, your ears, and your mind. And for my friend David over in Ireland, or really anybody that enjoys some refreshment while you watch this, maybe go with a more mellow herb just because this one is simply bonkers. There's no sex or nudity, a ton of profanity, and an incredible amount of vicious and gory violence. I give The Guardians of Justice 3.5 out of 5 couches. What's a bizarre show that you've seen that you think others should know about? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.